Hey there, it's me again. I am showing you myself again. This seems so weird. But let's move past that. And I wanted to share with you another video that I worked on. I have a little gift, and maybe it's a controversial gift. But what I wanted to do today is talk about maybe the thing I struggled most with when I started reading, and that was the idea of intuition, whether or not I had it, and how to develop it, and when to trust it. So I've come up with a little activity that I think for those of you who are starting out, or for those of you who struggle with this, or who have maybe sort of hit a plateau, I want to give you permission to trust yourself. So I have a little activity that I've designed, and I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And I hope that this helps you feel comfortable with your intuition and with your embracing of tarot, because I feel like so much of what's amazing about it is learning to trust yourself. And it's just, I've had a long relationship with the cards. I've been reading for 17 years. I started when I was like 19 or 20. I'm 37 now. I, I love reading them for others. I like reading for them for myself. It's harder to read for myself, but I like reading for myself. What I want to share with you is ways that maybe you can feel more comfortable, because it's so worth it. It's just so good when it's cooking. So here's an activity. I have chosen, the reason this may be controversial is because I've chosen to demystify the idea of intuition a little bit. Um, but I hope it unlocks something. So let's take a look, and I hope that you find this helpful. All right, so as I said, I'm going to try to demystify intuition a little bit, and this may be a controversial topic, but my main point is, again, to give folks that are new to this, who are struggling with the idea of intuition, or who maybe plateaued, permission to trust their minds a little bit. Okay? So that's really what this is about. What I'm trying to do, as I said in my intro, is I'm trying to give you permission to enjoy doing this, because it's fun, it's helpful, it's something I love, and I want you to feel good about doing it too. So scientists tell us, and I agree with them because scientists are smarter than I am, that the human mind is programmed to recognize patterns. We're built for it. It's how we survive. It's why we know to cross the street when cars are coming, because we see giant things hurtling at us. In the same way, millennia ago, we would have run from bison. We're trained to recognize symbols and understand that they mean something. That's why we stop at a red light when we're in the car, or we stop at the hand signal if we're trying to cross the street. We are conditioned to read and make sense of information and put that information in context and make that context and that information mean something to us. You have that ability. You're born with it. We learn the symbols over a lifetime, just like we learn language, and I'll talk about that in a second. We learn those things, but our ability is there. And to me, and this is where maybe this is a controversial topic again, that's what intuition is. It's just trusting that that's there for you. So let's experiment, and I'm going to ask you to stick with me on this. I'm going to show you a series of shapes, little drawings I've made, okay? And I'm going to pause just a second after each one and let you register it. So here we go. So basically what we've got is a series of lines in different card configurations. Now, if I put those lines together, I'll see a pattern in them. I may have seen a pattern in them already. I may have just decided they're meaningless. I may have decided I know what they are. But when we put them into a sequence, the shapes take on a meaning that they didn't before. And when I look at the shapes in this way, it's kind of hard for me to not see something familiar there. It's kind of hard not to see the word cats. That's because I have been programmed over the course of my life to recognize shapes of letters and to read them in sequence and to recognize the patterns they make. Even if these aren't fully formed letters, they still create a sense of shape. They still create a pattern. They still create something that I understand. So the brain does that automatically. Now, that's easy. We all learn to read if we learned that. But it's still there in us, even if we're not talking about language. So now I'm going to show you another series of images, and I'm going to pause after each one and just let you register them. So you saw those shapes. They may have meant nothing to you. They may have meant something to you. My guess is that in some way you created blanks, or rather you saw blanks and filled them in, or maybe you decided that it was a number, a sequence, something. But again, when we put them into context, we can start to see patterns because our brain can't help but do that. So let's say I were to take 3 of these shapes and put them together. Now, everyone watching this may or may not see what I see. And of course, I made this, so I sort of knew what I was going for. But my guess is that in some way they'll be close. Looking at this together, in context, if I asked you what's going to happen today, and you were forced to tell me based on these 3 pictures, my guess is you might say that it's going to be rainy, but the rain may give way to sun, or some variation of that. Because it's hard once we start to see similar shapes, potentially. I'm being generous here and hoping that you're with me. Not to see the potential for rain in this, or maybe the sun. Maybe you saw something completely different. That's okay too. I tried to pick things in this case that would lead to a similarity, because of course tarot has similarity as well. But it almost doesn't matter if you saw something completely different. If you saw that together, something became contextual. Likewise, something like this. And this might mean something to you. For me, it suggests baseball. If I add more to it, things change a little bit, but still, I have a pattern that I'm recognizing, that I'm starting to see. Maybe a nice day for baseball becomes a rain delay. But the key here is that in some way, your brain made connections to the meaning of things when it saw it in context, particularly in relationship to other things. You were able to do that because life has prepared you to do it. None of us came out of the wounds reading, The Girl on the Train or Dickens. You know what I mean? None of us had that ability. What we had when we were born was the ability to see, recognize, put patterns together, associate meanings, make symbols mean something, etc. So we started with the word cats, we transitioned to Dr. Seuss, and then Lemony Snicket, and then Harry Potter, and then Dickens. And maybe we didn't enjoy Dickens all that much, or maybe we didn't enjoy Dr. Seuss. I don't know how you can't enjoy Dr. Seuss, but whatever. But we learned in the same way that we very quickly learned that these simple concepts meant something. Now, even if when I laid out my initial spread here, you didn't see rain, chances are now that I've said it, it's hard to unsee it. In the same way that if you didn't necessarily see cats when I laid these out, once it's out there, it's hard to unsee it. So once you've seen a pattern, it's hard to unsee it. Once you've recognized the meaning behind something, it's hard to unrecognize it. Now let's take this a little bit further